Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Wait guys, people don't want to feel bad about themselves, they want to be entertained. So I have an idea. How about, in addition to the news, we start up a new Armchair Imagineering series and we can call it Waltineering. Yeah? So here's the argument for a true inside-out attraction at Disneyland and Walt Disney World, up next. Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack and this is Waltineering, and first of all, thanks for sticking with me to this point in this video, as that was some terrible acting in the intro, and yeah, it was kind of cringeworthy. But either way, for today, let's talk about some Inside Out. As for many years, there's been this meme online about the creation of Pixar movies, and in many ways, Inside Out is like the final culmination of this meme. But the movie itself is so much more than just that, as it's also one of the most original storytelling concepts that Pixar has ever explored. And yet you'd think that with all that creativity behind a movie like that it would be a no-brainer that it deserves its own attraction within a Disney park. And now you're probably going to say, but Jack, there's already an Inside Out ride on Pixar Pier with Inside Out's emotional Whirlwind at Disney California Adventure. And well, yes, that is true, but in my opinion, Inside Out deserves so much more than just a rethemed spinner attraction. And that's not meant to take away from the hard work that the Imagineering team clearly put into Emotional Whirlwind. But beyond the obvious reason that Inside Out was a newer movie and arguably more popular because of that, it's always remained puzzling why Inside Out was the movie chosen for this attraction retheme. As after all, the ride system was already themed to another Pixar movie when it was originally themed to Flick's Flyers in a Bug's Land before that land was then demolished to make way for the Avengers campus. But then if you put to one side that lack of necessity to retheme this attraction from one Pixar movie to another, the choice of Inside Out is indisputably not the best design fit for this type of spinner ride system, as nothing within the world of Inside Out easily lends itself to the large glowing memory orbs flying around with buckets suspended underneath, with the only possible reason maybe being that it's meant to elicit the days of gimmicky, oversized boardwalk attractions of the past. But then again, if I was given the same design brief to choose a Pixar movie for this spinner ride system, I would have chosen Up, as you could have easily themed the top elements above each one of the ride buckets to a sculpture of a collection of balloons that would not only look amazing in daylight, but would also be able to glow at night time. And then you could also have the distinctive colour scheme of Carl and Ellie's house adorning the seated compartments. And this attraction could have even had the name Paradise Falls Flyers instead. So despite Emotional Whirlwind giving Inside Out some in-park representation, I think that we could all agree that Inside Out is such an amazingly creative, imaginative and inventive movie that it is certainly deserving of more than one attraction, and definitely deserving of an attraction that fits the theme and narrative of the movie. So for my first idea, let's jump on over to Epcot, as it may seem like the obvious choice, but it's also probably the most likely to happen one day in the future. As you see, years ago, there used to be an attraction within the former Wonders of Life Pavilion called Cranium Command. And in actual fact, the ride has even got a connection to the director of Inside Out, as when Pete Docter was interning at Disney Animation in the 1980s, he helped work on the animated sequences for the attraction and even made a cameo in the show film as one of the human heads as well. So perhaps that subconsciously influenced the making of Inside Out all those years later. As if you compare the attraction logo to that of the movie poster, they are eerily similar to one another. But the thing here is that Wonders of Life is currently undergoing its transformation into the all-new interactive Play Pavilion, which will feature Disney and Pixar characters in interactive exhibits, such as Edna Mode's Fashion Academy, and as we can see here, Joy from Inside Out is also featured in emoji form, possibly hinting that this will be the new home of the Joy and Sadness meet and greet that used to be over at Innoventions West. But I feel that Inside Out could really help boost this pavilion's attraction offerings by retheming Cranium Command into Inside Out's headquarters, where we could enter a new pre-show room and find Buzzy in animatronic form, but this time his title's changed to become Chief Neurotransmitter. And in this concept, Buzzy would then explain to us that it's been a couple of years since we last saw Riley, and there's recently been a problem with Friendship Island, and Joy, Anger, Disgust and Fear have all gone to try and investigate the problem, leaving Sadness in charge of the console. But unbeknownst to the rest of the emotions, the reason why there's a problem with the Friendship Island is because Riley is about to go on her first real date with her best friend Jordan, that we met for the first time in the Pixar short. And so Buzzy is now recruiting us to help fill in for the other 4 emotions, and make sure that this date isn't a complete disaster. Now for this concept, it would require a complete overhaul of the attraction's theatre, so that it looks and feels like headquarters from inside out. And the way I see it is that Disney could either go in a more expensive direction by creating animatronics of the 5 emotions, or they could go to a similar setup to that of Turtle Talk with Crush or Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, where it's a screen-based attraction that encourages audience interaction, and each seat of the theatre could have interactive elements that require the audience to respond on a 4-button console that would then be tallied in real time, creating a different experience as we're influencing Riley's emotions on the date. And so I think that this idea has a lot of potential, as it helps build not only upon the movie but also the Inside Out short, and expands the timeline by a few years, making this attraction concept more compelling, as it's not just a retelling of one of the scenes from the movie. However, for my second idea, it's going to involve something that you were probably expecting when you clicked on this video, as ever since Inside Out was released, the common belief has been that it would work amazingly well as a replacement to Journey into Imagination with Figment. However, it's got to be noted that when Pete Docter, who is the director of Inside Out, became the chief creative officer of Pixar a couple of years ago, apparently Imagineering pitched him the idea of an Inside Out retheme of Journey into Imagination, thinking that the concept would easily get his creative approval since it was his movie. But apparently Pete Docter responded by saying fans love Figment, and so why would we remove a fan favourite attraction? And I definitely agree with him on that. But of course the current idea of Epcot is to make it more Disney, and so it's inevitable that we'll see more IP integration within Epcot. So instead, with this attraction, maybe it could be an amalgamation, where Figment remains within the attraction, but we also see it represent Inside Out, so therefore it has more casual appeal. As after all, Figment was featured as an Easter egg in the movie, so technically he does exist somewhere within Riley's world. But my idea for the attraction would be to retheme it to Journey into Riley's Imagination with Bing Bong and Figment, which would allow the attraction to keep a similar concept that fits comfortably within the Imagination Pavilion, and yet it wouldn't be as much of an aggressive integration of IP that would turn the Imagination Pavilion into the Inside Out Pavilion. So here's my story concept. Well, the first thing I would do would be to remove Nigel Channing and the Imagination Institute's 5 sensory labs, and instead refocus the attraction towards its origins, which would of course require a restructuring and expansion of the queue area to maybe even involve a pre-show area, along with bringing back parts of the old track layout. As in this concept, we would all see a pre-show movie, where a much younger Riley, aged between 5 and 6 years old, is watching an educational children's TV program starring Dreamfinder and Figment in the style of Mr. Rogers or Sesame Street. And then, much like we all did at that age watching back-to-back children's TV, she drifts off to sleep, opening up the Dream Port, where Bing Bong will then invite us into her imagination to help produce the best Dream episode ever inside Dream Studios. And because Riley is asleep with the TV program on in the background, it means that the iconic Sherman Brothers theme of One Little Spark can be integrated within the attraction as well, with it playing towards the end as the big finale that wakes her up once again. Now, the key to this kind of concept is that it allows enough room for the creativity and imaginative show scenes from Inside Out to be integrated, whilst also being able to pay tribute to previous environments, like for instance the Upside Down Room. But also Figment can make multiple appearances alongside Bing Bong, as after all he is a popular character in a TV show that she watches regularly. So in conclusion, this idea would blend the original attraction and also Pixar into the same world, which would drive increased interest to this new attraction from guests that are only aware of Inside Out, and yet it would also return some of those classic elements for the Epcot purists, which hopefully would make everyone happy. But then we come to my last idea for an Inside Out ride, and this time it doesn't involve any sort of retheming or reimagining of existing attractions, but instead it would need a completely new build. As in my opinion, the immense creativity and imaginative world building seen within Inside Out has a scale and scope that desperately needs to be explored in a true dark ride style of attraction. However, unlike my other suggestions that involve Epcot, the location for such an attraction would see us come full circle in this video and back on over to Pixar Pier. As when comparing Disney California Adventure and Disneyland, it's clear that California Adventure still doesn't have nearly as many must-do staple attractions as for Disneyland Park, which is a point that's only exacerbated with the announcement last year that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway would be coming to Disneyland's Toontown. Meanwhile, Disney California Adventure has the Avengers Campus currently under construction. But the problem with that is even with the addition of the Avengers Campus, the park's overall attraction number will not increase, as its Tough to Be a Bug was removed to make way for the new Spider-Man Web Slingers attraction. So if anything, DCA needs a new original attraction a lot more. But now we come to the issue of location, and the landlocked nature of the resort makes building anything new a difficult process of trade-offs and relocations of backstage infrastructure. But I think there could be two possible options here, with the first being to remove the off-the-shelf Goofy Sky School Wild Mouse Coaster, along with Corndog Castle and also Seaside Souvenirs and Paradise Garden Grill, but keep Boardwalk Pizza and a smaller outdoor seating area. And then the second option could be to build a new show building behind the Incredicoaster to the side of Toy Story Mania, although this would also require the relocation of this backstage building that houses the parade storage and some admin offices for attractions and scheduling. So with both of these locations, it would provide a sizable area of roughly 5,500 square meters on the pier, or 6,500 square meters behind the Incredicoaster. But out of all of this, I would personally lean toward building near the pier, as I feel it would provide an incredible opportunity to add some additional Californian theming, as after all, Inside Out is set within San Francisco. So what better for a facade for a massive show building than that of the iconic Painted Ladies, which are the homes found within the Bay Area of San Francisco, as this would provide an incredible three-dimensional facade that would follow the line around the area, overlooking World of Color, which would not only serve in hiding a massive show building, but it would also bring some classic Californian architecture to Disney California Adventure. But no matter whether it's option 1 or option 2 for the location, the attraction idea would remain the same, as this concept in my opinion is so logical I'm actually kind of surprised that Disneyland announced Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway to be coming to Disneyland instead of using the exact same 2.5D projection technology pioneered in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, along with the same trackless ride vehicles, to create an inside-out train of thought. As after all, Disney loves repurposing tried and tested ride systems for multiple attraction concepts, and the beauty of this idea is very little adjustment would be required to the ride vehicle design, besides the obvious change to a pink colour scheme and adding a few different design flourishes to make it fit within the world of Inside Out. And so this is my story concept for the train of thought, where we would enter the queue and walk through a fibre optic LED projection mapped tunnel that would represent that zoom transition into Riley's head. Then once we've made the transition, we would be met by the 5 emotions in a headquarters pre-show room, where we would be told that we need to take the train of thought and help Riley find inspiration for an upcoming school project. And Joy would be accompanying us as the train conductor, which would be achieved through the same projection effect as Goofy in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. But then just before we leave the load station of the platform, which would be the headquarters station, projected on one of the walls in the background, we would be able to see that Riley is going into the attic to look through some old boxes for inspiration. And then the attraction would begin, and we would get our tour of the islands of personality, abstract thought, the subconscious, and imagination land, which would obviously maximise the effectiveness of the 2.5D projection technology. However, then toward the end of the attraction, our train would then suddenly divert and form a new track toward the long-term memory station. And whilst this is happening, we hear a message from headquarters with Sadness saying to Joy that Riley has found a drawing of, and then just as that line is spoken, we turn the corner and Joy excitedly shouts out, "Bing Bong." And we're reunited with Bing Bong once again, as Riley has remembered him because of a drawing that she's found in one of the boxes. And within this show scene, Bing Bong shoots off on his rocket wagon to the moon whilst he sings his song for the grand finale. And all of this is tied together in the exit of the attraction, where we see that Riley has used an old drawing of Bing Bong as inspiration for a school project on space travel, thus reigniting her interest, and maybe one day, Riley will go to the moon. So to summarise, those are just my ideas for what I think would make compelling and deserving attraction concepts for an inside-out ride either at Disneyland or Walt Disney World. But now, it's over to you, the Waltineers, as I would like to know, first of all, what are your thoughts and opinions on my attraction concepts? And also, what are your ideas for an inside-out ride at any one of the Disney parks around the world? And really build that idea on out by selecting a location, a suitable ride system, and also an attraction narrative. And of course, don't forget to put a timestamp for where the hidden Mickey appeared somewhere in today's video, along with your suggestion or your comment, to be in the chance to win one of these official DSNY Newscast enamel pins. And congratulations to this Waltineer here for winning this suggestion from a previous video, where we were talking all about the Avengers campus at Disneyland Paris. And so that's it for today. And if you've enjoyed today's video, then be sure to go ahead and subscribe down below, hit the notification bell, and give this video a massive thumbs up, as it really does help this channel out. And I've been Jack. You've been you, and I'll see you real soon.